Thanks for taking a look at this video. However, the first thing I must say is that if ever you've flown radio controlled devices or know anything about DJI quadricopters, then turn off now, because it will be far too elementary and boring for you. I have to stress that I am an absolute radio control virgin, and 2 days after buying this great piece of kit, I still am. You can see that propellers are still in their bags. I'm an engineering designer with years of experience in many different fields, but like 99% of all men, I never read instruction manuals. This video will be about me losing my radio control virginity and hopefully coming out the other end of this adventure with a big smile on my face. Okay, for those of you still watching, I guess that you may also be thinking about venturing into the alluring DJI world. Let me tell you that before I parted with my money, I spent a couple of months watching many great DJI promotion videos and various people's experience flying their new kit, supposedly straight out of the box. I've watched endless videos of upgrade procedures and initial setup procedures, and the one on the screen particularly is very good, but it doesn't cater for version 3. But after all this, I still felt that I'd already become somewhat of an expert even before buying one. I've mentioned my engineering background, but it's important for you to know that I'm also old, grey, fat and ugly, and that I've been doing cine film and video editing for many years as a serious hobby. It was the prospect of taking high quality establishing shots from an aerial platform that tempted me into this new world, not the buzz of radio control. After eagerly unpacking everything, I felt the sensible thing to do was to charge all the batteries. It was evening and there was no prospect of flying straight out the box, so I hesitantly broke a lifetime's habit and decided it may be prudent to glance at the manual before throwing £1,000 into the air. Well, here we've got the pack of instructions. All this is in other languages. It distills down to 3 booklets. So this one's the pilot training guide, which basically tells you how to start flying the thing and what sort of things you can do to go from 1 star to 2 stars to 3 star. So that's something that we don't need until we've actually got it in the air. We've got the user manual, and we've also got this thing here which is called a quick start guide. So on the back of this quick start guide we've got a picture of the very latest version of the radio control unit with the 4 LED indicators on it, so that we know we've got a piece of up-to-date instruction paperwork here. And so when we open it up, we've got a 9-step guide to how to get into the air and land again. So as I said, I don't normally look at instructions, but if we're going to look at them, then I suppose we ought to start at number 1. Now the very first thing that it says is view the tutorials, and it gives you a web address. Sadly, as you can see, that web address is absolutely useless. I've checked back on the DJI website and I can't find the training tutorials either. So that's a good start. The next stage, they say, is to download the DJ Vision app from the App Store. Well, I have a Samsung phone and I had no problem at all downloading the Vision app. Now the next thing, against a warning triangle where it says important, but it's in very small letters, for safety reasons, please watch the tutorials. Failed on that one. Read the disclaimer, well, we're not going to bother with that, and the manual thoroughly before using this product. Okay, so we've been told we must read the manual thoroughly. There's only 50 pages to read. Should I or shouldn't I? Okay, so here's the manual. It tells me it's the version 1.4. Now go and take a quick check on the DJI website and find that this is not the most up-to-date manual. So I've been supplied with an up-to-date quick start guide but an out-of-date manual. So I'm wondering if this is going to have any effect on me as an idiot user. I note that the pictures in this manual are of the old style controller with AA batteries, whereas I've got the new style controller which has got a built-in lithium ion battery. From YouTube videos that I've watched, about setting up for your first flight and unboxing your new quadricopter. I've established that probably the sensible thing to do before I throw this piece of expensive kit into the air is to check the calibration and the control settings. And to do that, I need to download some software onto my PC or my laptop. Now, here I've got the old manual, and what I'm going to do is to download pages from the new manual, the most up-to-date manual, because when I've had a quick look into it, there are significant differences between the pages that are shown. So there are three things that you must do. First of all, there's a driver that you have to install first, and then you have to install a Vision Plus Assistant piece of software, and it also says that you should install the Phantom RC Assistant software as well. Now, it's very confusing because both the Phantom Assistant software and the remote control software allow you to calibrate the sticks on your remote control unit. And I have to say that I have been fooled by this software. So I've downloaded the latest versions of the Phantom Assistant and the RC Assistant, and we need to start off by opening up the Phantom Assistant. We skip the intro page and we get straight into the Assistant software. Now we've got all sorts of announcements on there which we will just close. These are channel monitors are here for the sticks. We've got various other things, advanced controls, which we're not going to go into yet. We have this basic setting. The second tab along here is an RC tab for setting up the transmitter. Now, although we've downloaded the RC Assistant as well, from what my vendor tells me, I don't actually need to use the RC Assistant to set up the RC control unit. I can do it from here. Now I'm going to move it over to the corner of the screen so that we can see what's going on. So I'm going to plug the micro USB into the controller, and at this point in time you will see that absolutely nothing is happening down here. Well, here's mistake number one. I've plugged this piece of software, which is called the Phantom software, and it's not the RC software, even though I'm calibrating the radio control unit. So I thought I should have this piece of software plugged into the Phantom. While you've got the gimbal lock in place, remove the lens cap, and it's important to remove the lens cap. Do not leave the lens cap on, and then remove the gimbal lock, and everything goes floppy, as you can see. Now you'll need to remove that gimbal lock and the camera cover before you power up the Phantom, otherwise it changes the balance of the camera. Anyway, as I said, the one mistake that I've just made is I've plugged the Phantom software into the controller. So first of all, we've plugged the USB into the Phantom, and now we'll just power up the Phantom. And you can probably just see in the background here, the camera will pick up and start self-centering itself. So to calibrate, we're supposed to move these things right to their extremities all the way around. And then we press finish, and they should finish up in a central position. Over here we've got X1 and X2. There's no hint what these features are in the manual or in the quick start guide. So we'll start to do an X1 calibration, whatever X1 is. We get the impression that X1 is to do with the gimbals, but there's nothing here. When I put my pointer on here, there's nothing to indicate. Like here, when we go down to here, we've got this little picture which comes up, which tells me that I've got a control wheel, but there's no indication here that what I'm going to do as to probably calibrate the control wheel. And sure enough, look, as you can see, the camera is moving up and down, and I'm moving the control wheel to its extremities. So when I let it go, it moves to a central position, and when I say finish, there we go, we've now got a green. So we've now calibrated the gimbal on the camera as well. But there's nothing in any of the instructions which tells me to do that. So hopefully my camera is now very controllable. Look, very gently I can pan down, or I can pan up, or I can do it quickly. It's all proportional control on this thumb wheel. I'm advised that I shouldn't be changing anything to do with the gain control. That's a factory preset. I don't need to do anything with the battery controls, other than it tells me a lot about the various features of the battery, and you can read a lot about that in the manual. We've got tools here, and the one thing that I've been advised probably I should do is something called a basic calibration. It says there, please keep the main controller stationary and horizontal during calibration. Okay, yes. So as you can see, it's a fairly quick procedure, and that's all I need to do. If I go to the information page, it just tells me what version of software I've got running on this PC. If I go to the upgrade page, it will tell me whether or not I need upgrading any of the software, and it tells me that everything I've got there is the latest or fully upgraded. And as I said, this is where the confusion existed, because now we've got the RC software. What I've got to do now is to unplug the USB from the copter and plug it into the RC unit. And here we've got a very familiar screen. So it doesn't mention anything on this particular RC controller about the thumb wheel. So the only place that I can calibrate that thumb wheel is probably on the Phantom Assistant. We can see that the X1 control is showing on here, and I probably could go through the calibration procedure now that I sort of understand what the X1 does, but there's even less help on this page about what these controls do. And so the main function of this piece of software for this latest version of the Phantom is the information page, and if we haven't got the latest version of firmware, presumably we click on there and it will upgrade itself. So we really don't need to worry too much about the RC Assistant. It's only the Phantom Assistant that we need to work with most of the time. Now, as an absolute novice first-time flyer, I've decided that I'm going to also equip my Phantom with, I suppose it's the equivalent almost of training wheels. It helps, hopefully it will help me recognise from a distance the orientation of the copter, and it will also help the video to see what's going on from a distance. What we've got here is some very simple, fairly lightweight and compact bike lights, and the plan is to make a couple of hooks that will allow them to just hook and sit onto the front and rear of the unit so that I can recognise the orientation from a distance. And the other thing that I tried to remember is when we're putting the clamp, the gimbal clamp back on, always put the gimbal clamp on first before you try and put the lens cap on. That way you're not putting any stress onto the gimbal itself.